This won't make the YouTube, but proof to your child that you worked on their nursery while pregnant.
Here, there you go. Yeah, I did something. Mom did something while she was pregnant.
Look how hard she worked for you. We're gonna play this at your 10th birthday party.
No.
All right, back in the nursery. Now, one thing that can drastically change the look of a room is the molding. It's like a picture frame. A bad frame ruins a good picture. A good frame goes unnoticed and highlights the picture. The same thing applies to molding. Bad molding stands out like a sore thumb, and good molding makes the room complete. This room has crown molding in addition to the baseboards. Now, the baseboards are in decent condition. They just need some new paint and new quarter round trim. This crown molding though, it's some weird castle-shaped stuff with large visible gaps between the pieces. I pulled all of it down before painting the Milky Way mural. Once I finished painting the mural, I needed a break from looking up at the ceiling, so I got to work on the baseboards. First thing to do is pull off all the quarter round trim. I pried out any stuck nails and used a chisel to lightly scrape away any leftover crud, which was mostly just caulking and excess paint. It's the little details like this that will help the new stuff fit as it should. I then thoroughly vacuumed and wiped down the baseboards. One of the things we wanted to change is the color. All of the old molding is this off-white ivory color. It just needs a clean update. All of this is getting painted with a semi-gloss white. There's always more work that goes into paint prep than the actual painting. I taped all the way around the room, below and above the molding, and even around the door frame. The prep work is done, so I popped open a can and got to it. Whenever painting with a brush, I like using this pail with a handle. It's easy to move around with, and it has a magnet to hold the brush when you need to free up a hand. I did 2 coats with a relatively short time gap between coats. Proper taping means the painting can go much quicker. After about 20 minutes, or when the paint is dry to the touch, I pull off all the tape. If you wait too long, you might not get a clean line and some of the new paint may peel off where you don't want it to. In that case, you might have to run a utility blade along the edge. Now that the molding is painted, the door stands out. At some point, I'll be replacing all the interior doors in the house, so it'll just stay like that until then. In order to complete the baseboards, it needs a quarter round trim at the front. In the past, I've used this PVC material because it doesn't require any painting. It's already the color I need it to be. It also cuts easily and attaches well without ever splitting like wood. I first used full-length pieces to cover larger sections, then came back with the smaller portions to fill in all the gaps. Here's an example of how to make a seam look good. The first piece to go on is always mitered to be behind. I bring the second piece up and mark where to make the cut. After making the cut, I test fit the piece in place. If it needs any minor adjustments, I'll go ahead and do that. This one was good, so I erased the pencil marks. I use a brad nailer to secure it, though after driving in the nails, it wasn't quite sitting right. That's okay though, because a trick I use is to use a hammer to make some minor adjustments. I placed a paint stick over the board to protect it from dents and tapped it until the seam was perfect. I kept going and finished all the quarter round. Cleaning up the quarter round is easy. The spackle I use dries the same color white, so no paint is needed. I do like to add a bead of caulking on the top edge. This covers up any small gaps and prevents dust and dirt from getting in there. Once all that was in, the baseboards were done. Before adding crown molding, I had some touch-up work to do. I knew that the new molding would be smaller than the old stuff, so I had to paint newly exposed portions of the wall to match. Problem is, I wasn't sure which paint to use. I assumed we painted it the same color as the rest of the house, which is a very light gray, but after attempting to clean it up, it was clearly not the right color. Turns out, it was just plain white. Surprising, but it makes sense. I went around the entire top to add paint, and touched up any specks that made their way on the wall from painting the ceiling. Alrighty, I picked up new crown molding and laid the pieces out on my workbench to be painted. The pieces were already primed, and I painted them with the same semi-gloss white as the baseboards. One of the many benefits of my workbench is that I've included a sacrificial board on top, so splattering on the top surface is encouraged. There are plans available on my website if you're interested in building it. I let the paint cure for a day before install. Right away, I cut the first few pieces and popped them up. Since I'm working solo, I cut the long strips into lengths I could manage on my own. This means I have more seams, but I just have to take a little extra effort to make sure they look good. When cutting crown molding with the miter saw, you definitely want a saw with a tall back. My main one does not, so I'm using a secondary that does have one. The trick to simpler cuts with the miter saw is to flip the crown molding upside down. The side that will be pressed against the ceiling should be down on the base, and the side pressed into the wall should be against the back. Then you only have to use the snap angles of the saw and not some crazy compound cut. Piece by piece, I worked my way around the room. I only recently started using this battery-powered brad nailer. I had an opportunity to try it and got hooked. It's worlds different not having to lug around a compressor and air tube. Above the closet, a little bit of extra wood needed to be added as a spacer. Otherwise, the bottom crown molding would be floating. I'll be the first to admit that adding crown molding is difficult, and especially difficult to get it to look good. But there are remedies for little errors like this gap here. Spackle can be your new best friend. I filled in all the gaps and nail holes with this, sanded it when it was dry, and painted over it, being extra careful not to get any paint on the mural. This completes the crown molding. The room has two windows. One is a large bay window that will stay as is for now. The other is a long window with some plantation blinds on it. Now, it's quite obvious that the blinds are a completely different color. There's too many surfaces to reliably paint, and also we just aren't a fan of them. We'll add some blackout curtains before the baby is born, but for now, the blinds just have to go. It's always fun doing demo in the house because it never fails to reveal something new. Underneath the plantation frame is some perfectly preserved window molding. It's great because it just saved me a step. All I have to do now is paint the newly exposed portion of the wall. Eventually, the window will be replaced with something more energy efficient, and the molding will be replaced at that time. Finally, all the painting is done, and the drop cloths can finally leave the room. We spent some time organizing, cleaning, and rearranging the room for its new purpose. The next big project will be to refinish the large furniture pieces, which are the dresser and 2 nightstands. The boss lady found these fun themed curtains. I installed a rod so they could hang over the bay window. Is it just me, or does the ceiling really look like a starry night sky? Someone gifted us these super cool Star Wars caricature prints. We framed them and put them up on one of the walls. I just think they're awesome. Alright, so much more work has been done to really clean up the room and make it look so much better. It's really coming along nicely. Okay, that's it for now. See ya.
Again. I will this.
This won't make the YouTube, but proof to your child that you worked on their nursery while pregnant.
Here, there you go. Yeah, I did something. Mom did something while she was pregnant.
Look how hard she worked for you. We're gonna play this at your 10th birthday party.
No.
You better still have a space room by then.
Oh no.